Hey YouTube, in the last two videos I've gone over the huge changes that we're going to see in the Great League meta because that's what most of the people play. But people also said they want an Ultra League look at this. So I am going to look at the Ultra League. We're going to look at the new rankings and I'm going to go over Pokemon that I think are going to have play. So before that, let's just go over some of the off the top of my head sort of things of like what these moves mean. So for the most part, these moves mostly more are targeted to Great League, right? Like I pointed out yesterday how like Dig is a direct attack on Gligar and Wing Attack is a direct attack on like Gligar. And then like the Mud Shots are like Swampert and Quagsire and Whiscash, which are overpowering, right? So a lot of these moves, when they're taken into consideration, is really done for the Great League. However, that doesn't mean that the Ultra League and Master League, if we want to do a video, I can do a video on that, doesn't mean that they don't have residual effects. It's just that I don't think Niantic actually truly thinks about what those effects are in Ultra League and Master League like they do in the Great League. So what is the main things that are going to be affected here? So if we just go in order here, so Wing Attack, there's only two Wing Attack users that I care about in the Great League, and that was the Ultra League, and that was Pidgeot and Gliscor. So Gliscor was a really nice Pokemon to use because it basically kind of played like Gligar in the Great League, right? You had a Wing Attack that you got to these Night Slashes super quick and then an Earthquake for the steals. So it played the same role. It was not as strong as Gligar was in the Great League, but it was strong. Obviously it dropped in there. And Pidgeot, I just put out a video yesterday talking about how I went 350 ELO with a Pidgeot, with a team that just all got nerfed. But I said in that video, and I said multiple times in the rankings, Pidgeot was, in my opinion, the best flyer in the Ultra League. And unfortunately, because Wing Attack, why was it so strong? You had it on the lead. Wing Attack was fast energy generation. You got to a Feather Dance where you can just nerf their attack times 2 immediately, or you Brave Bird and Bail and like nuke them and bail. So it was such a great lead Pokemon. It was the best flyer in the game. And as you can see, now they go back to say recommended Gust, which is the moveset before. Gust is a very, very hard hitting move, but it's slower energy, which means you're not getting to the Feather Dance and Brave Bird as fast. So flyers take the immediate hit. And another thing which we saw take a hit is counter users. And there were more counter users in the Ultra League than there were the Great League. And unfortunately, they all, same thing, just took the hit. Poliwrath seems to still be up there. But then you're going to go down and all these other Pokemon, Scrafty, Annihilate, Buzzhole, Defense Deoxys, Obstagoon, Escav, Toxicroak to a certain extent, and Limited Cups like Surfetch, they were all viable counter users in the Ultra League. And unfortunately, they are now gone. Not surprising, Machamp with Karate Chop is at the top. It's again, some of my analysis I did of 10 Pokemon that will be meta yesterday are also going to be relevant here. And unfortunately, that's the problem when certain Pokemon get certain moves, right? We saw it with Feraligatr. We saw like Annihilate just come in and be meta in all 3 leagues. We saw Feraligatr get Shadow Claw and be meta in all 3 leagues, right? So it's going to be the same thing. You're going to have a couple of those like Machamps and Pangoros, like they will be, man, Pangoro not as much in here, but actually, no, Pangoro will be strong in here. No, sorry, I've got counter on. Pangoro will be strong in this because of what I said yesterday. The Karate Chop is just too overpowered, right? It's number 4. Not surprising. So those are some of the obvious ones. Just looking through some of these other things is the Mudshot users. So the only real Mudshot user that was strong for the most part was Swampert. And Swampert was a top 20 Pokemon forever. It's dropped to 48 and 54. Again, I still think it has play. It's still going to generally do what it's supposed to do in this meta. Still have problems with Giratinas and Cresselias, but still do well against poisons and steals and grounds and stuff like that. So it's still going to do its role, just not as strong. But that is one thing that also got nerfed and that we need to talk about in the Ultra League here. Body Slam, power going down. So that I would say is Greedent is your biggest loser here. Greedent was a great safe swap. But as you can see with the other Body Slam users, there's now other Body Slam users that risen to the top because of Rollout and Mud Slap buffs. I don't know about guys. We'll go over that in a minute here. And then what else do we have on the nerf list off the top of my head? I I don't think there's, well, Fairy, we're going to talk about the Fairies in a minute here because they will play better. Poison Sting, Drapion, I kind of already went over yesterday, and I think that's, for the most part, that's it for the Ultra League. So let's look at just the quick rankings, and let's start with the Pokemon that aren't, I'm going to do this in reverse order yesterday because I'm just going to go down this list here. Let's start just with 5 Pokemon that are not going to be touched hard. For Alligator, same reasons as yesterday. That's why I'm just going to go fast in these. For Alligator, still top because Shadow Claw, Hydro Cannon, still a very dominating combo. Best fast moves, fast and charge. One of the best fast and charge moves in the game, still dominant. Registeel, yes, Zap Cannon got nerfed a little bit. Again, this is assuming a big nerf to 30% reduction in the attack drop. But Registeel is just so overpowered in this league because it is an insane amount of XL. These Focus Blast and Zap Cannon still do well over 50% in most things, so you just need 2 of them. And just you're so tanky that you can outlast everything. So yes, it will be a little worse because your Zap Cannon is not potentially lowering their attack as much. But I still think it's super strong. I did skip over Cobalion. Cobalion was one that was everywhere for a while, and then it dropped a lot, and now it's back up at number 6. I think it has play because no, I don't like Cobalion. I think it's overrated at 6, so we're gonna leave that one. Giratina Ultra is the other one I want to talk about. Still has Shadow Claw, Dragon Claw, Shadow Sneak. Still has its bulk. Still has everything. Yes, there will be more Fairies, which will be a little bit of a problem for Giratina, which is probably why it takes a little bit of a fall. But outside of that, I think it should still play its same role. And kind of like Mandibuzz, I mentioned that in yesterday's video. Mandibuzz is one of the only flyers that did not get nerfed. So when Pidgeot is best flyer gone, you still have Mandibuzz there at the top. Okay, so those are basically your top 20 that have not changed that I would still say are going to be meta. So you can build it around that. Okay, what will be the top meta for Ultra League? And again, not surprising. Look at Pangoro. Look at Machamp. Number 4, number 9. Again, I don't want to just repeat everything I said yesterday, but just to put it into perspective, I just put it, let's go with the fast charging moves is basically it is a better version of the old Mudshot and Poison Sting, and it's still a better version than the buff Poison Sting. So last season, Mudshot was the one, except for Lock On, which does 10 energy. Mudshot was the best energy generating move, but it didn't do much damage. So both Mudshot and Poison Sting were clones of each other. They used to be 3 damage and 9 energy. So it charged fast, but didn't do much damage. And then both got damage increases, but Mudshot came with a nerf in the energy. So Poison Sting's the better move now at 4 and 9. And here we have Karate Chop at 5 and 9. So just to put in perspective from last season, you have a move that generates energy at the same as Mudshot and Poison Sting, but does 2 more damage than the Mudshot and Poison Sting used to do. So I don't need to, again, if you've played anything against a Mudshot user, you know how fast it charges. So you're having that hard, fast charging while doing the damage of other moves. And just to put you in perspective, like what else does like 5 damage here? Like Powder Snow, Quick Attack, Snarl, Spark. Some of these are 3-turn, and I was going to say some of these are 3-turn moves. So if you're actually just looking at a 2-turn move, sorry, I shouldn't have used Snarl because those are 3-turn moves. But if you're looking at 2-turn moves, it's essentially like Powder Snow. So you have the Powder Snow or Vine Whip damage with way better energy generation. So it is a very, very, very broken move. And that is why Pangoro and Machamp will automatically rise to the top. I kind of not only do you have a super fast charging move and it can hit decently well as a fast move, you also have just cross chop for same type attack bonus, getting to them in 4 from Machamp, which is so fast, and Pangoro getting to them in 5 with close combat. Pangoro gets the little bit of a rise here. I think it's a little higher because there are a couple things that it does better against, mainly Giratina, which you resist all the claws as a dark type, and for Alligator, which you also resist the Shadow Claw. So slightly better than Machamp, but both are going to be super, super strong. Let's go to the Fairies, because Fairies are one that you really only had kind of two options with Fairies. You used most people just used Tapu Fini, which was a fairy, but it was mostly used as a water. You had Water Gun, Surf, and Nature's Madness. And then some used Ninetales as a charmer, and some, like I was going to say, where's Wiggly on this list? 263. If you wanted like a pure charmer, Wiggly, not too bad. Now you got the Fairy Wind buffed and Clefable that also got Swift. So Fairies were a little underrepresented in Ultra League before, because you don't have the same, like, again, people could use Wiggly, but it doesn't, Wiggly in the Ultra League is not like Wiggly in the Great League, just because everything is way, 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 way bulkier in the Great League, in the Ultra League. So a lot of times when you can just shield, Icy Wind, and Charm down in the Great League, you can't do that in the Ultra League. Everything's too bulky here, and they're gonna get to their moves too many times, and the Wiggly's not gonna have as much strength. So that's why the best Fairies here are not Charm users. So you need to rely on the Fairy Wind and your other moves to get there. So Clefable rank jumped up to number 3. Florges at 12, Galarian Weezing at 19. I think Galarian Weezing was one of the better ones before, because it kind of had 3 moves that you could kind of play against everything. You had Brutal Swing and Play Rough, which is, they're saying, is the recommended moveset now, to run against Giratina and Cresselia. And then you also had a Overheat if you wanted something to nuke for the steals. So it was always kind of the best fairy option. Plus it's XL, right? So you've got the XL bulk behind it. So it was always kind of one of the better fairy options in the Ultra League. So getting a little bit of buff with the Fairy Wind, a little bit of damage increase, just a reminder. So Fairy Wind goes from 3 to 4 power. Not a significant change, but a little extra damage on those Fairy Winds. So it gets a slight increase. But Florges and Clefable jumped it. I don't know why Florges has jumped so much higher. The only thing I could think of is because when these rankings are done, it's taken against the main sort of meta. And even though Mudshot got nerfed, Mud Slapped got a double buff. And this thing is half poison, which means it is weak to ground, as opposed to Florges, which is just a straight fairy, is only weak to poison and steel. So I think that ground weakness, let's just look at the ground Pokemon here, right? Because you have Zygarde at number 1 with Earthquake. You have Steelix, again, Steelix may or may not run Earthquake. And then you have, again, look at these other grounds that jumped up here. Gastrodon at 24, Runerigus at 47, Golurk at 52, right? Nidoqueen back on the menu at 55 with Earth Power. So there's a lot more ground running around now. So I think as a fairy user, picking up that poison typing probably just makes Weezing a little worse than the other two. Clefable's number 3. And the reason Clefable number 3 is, I'm going to go over this again like I went over yesterday, is because it has access to Swift. And Swift, this is going to overrank Clefable, because there's going to be some matchups where this is bait dependent. So we can just throw up all the matchups here. It may not work straight. So it has a 15-14 record. But again, like this Cobalion, you need to land Moonblast. And okay, this one's just going straight Moonblast, so that's fine. But there's probably some of these simulations where you're maybe landing a Swift bait before you. So this is a Swift bait. I guess you need to land one anyways. But let's just see if you go straight Moonblast here, if that changes the outcome here. It does, right? So if you are against a Tapu Fini and you do not bait Moonblast, if you just go straight, sorry, you don't bait Swift, and you just go straight Moonblast and they shield up a Moonblast, you lose, right? So that's technically a win, that's a loss. So in these simulations on PVPoke, I love PVPoke. This is the best website. He's the man. If he ever asks, like, I need money or help, like, I'll be his number 1 supporter here. But when it comes down to these rankings are done in the 1 shield scenario against the main meta with baiting some, like those baitings, the bait in the sort of simulations. So Clefable, in my opinion, is going to be overrated. That being said, I still think sort of take your pick. Clefable, Florges, Weezing, I think they're all going to have play. And that is just at the part of one, there's not a lot of pure steals, right? Again, Steel Wing, we're gonna see what Metal Claw is 1 or 2 increase, and I'll go over that in a second. But Steel Wing got buffed, so Empoleons aren't around as much. Some people use Skarmory, but not really in the Great League, in the Ultra League. There is a lot of Darks so there's a lot of Darks right off the bat here, right? You have Pangoro, Drapion is half and half, so that's just neutral. But you have Mandibuzz, you have Guzzlord that was everywhere. You now have Moltres that you may see a lot more of. Greninja, Umbreon, like these were Pokemon that were used in the Great League. And of course, there's the Dragons. Zygarde, again, not a ton of Zygardes, but a ton of Giratinas. We already went over Guzzlord, Como, Goodra, Dragonite, like a lot of Dragons and a lot of Darks in the Ultra League. So yes, you will see a Fairy rise, and I think it'll be a Fairy that is not taboo. It'll be a Fairy with a Fairy move. But I can't tell you off the bat which one it is. Again, Clefable has a higher ranking that is bait dependent, but again, you can successfully land baits in this. So perhaps it is the better Pokemon. Florges only has Fairy moves, but they are really good Fairy, like one's move math. Disarming Voice is still a pretty good move as well. And then Weezing gives you a little more coverage, being now having like Brutal Swinger or Overheat if you want a different move. So I think pick your poison. One of those Fairies will be better. Lickilicky. I use this thing. It's using Rollout here. So if you go to my top teams, go to my top teams tomorrow, because I'm probably going to use it again, because I'll talk about it again in the top team tomorrow. Friday. I use Lickilicky as my safe swap with Lick, Body Slam, and Shadow Ball because it was an absolute wall to Giratina. And now it's saying use Rollout because Rollout got the buff. So let's just look at Rollout versus Lick here just for a minute here. Lick had this, wasn't a great move, but again, it was a great answer for Giratina. So 3 energy and 3 damage. So Rollout got a buff on a damage. So now the damage is actually not the same, but a lot closer to Lick. But look at that difference in energy, 4.33. So now you are getting to the moves super fast. So you have an insanely bulky Pokemon, like think Lickitung, bulk, the Ultra League version of it. You have Body Slam, yes, it got nerfed, but you still get same type attack bonus, so it's not the worst move. And then you have the 100 damage Shadow Ball that will hit super effective against Giratinas and Cresselias and stuff. So I think that you're going to see that, and Greedent probably still has play. They're going to put others ahead. Miltank. I don't know about Miltank. In theory, it should work mostly the same as Lickilicky. Maybe the stats aren't the same. I don't know Ultra League stats as well. 136, 159, 209 for 4,500. And we have... Okay, so honestly, stat product comparable to Lickilicky. Rollout, Body Slam, the same. And then you have a non-stab Ice Beam. How much damage? 90 as opposed to 55 and 90, so that's probably slightly worse. So 55 and 90 over Shadow Ball, which is what, 55 and 100. So it's basically a clone of Lickilicky, similar stat product, same fast move, same first charge move that both get same type attack bonus because you're both normal Pokemon. It's just that your Ice Beam does 10 less damage than Shadow Ball, so that is why Lickilicky is better. So all things equal, if you only have one to use Lickilicky. If you don't have a Lickilicky and you have Miltank, sure, it's basically going to play the same function. So those two up there, I guess Greedent did take a significant hit here. Yeah, I guess with the Body Slams, it will be a lot worse. So Lickilicky for sure, and I guess with Miltank being this more or less the same, it'll be just a light version of that. So that should be one that rises. Drapion, same thing. I went over Drapion in the Great League, and it's gonna be the exact. I'm gonna reiterate exactly what I said in the Great League. It was already pretty close to a good to great safe swap. It just became a better safe swap because you just get a little more damage with the poison stings. It has the spamminess. right? It's one of those fast charging 4.5 energy per turn. So it only takes, I'm guessing, you can run Sludge Bomb, but Aqua Tail Crunch, I guess, not surprising as a Shadow. Only 4 charge moves, 4 fast moves to get to the Aqua Tail, only 5 to get to the Crunch. Coverage all around. You're half poison, half dark, so you neutralize fighting. You're dark, so you hit super effective against Giratina and Cresselia, which are everywhere. So it's just going to be like one of those great save swaps that if you get a couple Poison Sting advantage, it'll just be great. I see Destimar. I'm going to go back to that in a second. I said Ghost. And this is why I feel like, why do you guys want me to do this when it's just going to be a lot of repetition? I guess it's a little different with the Fairies. Like, the difference between... I'm trying to think of like my video yesterday versus today. Like, the Fairies are a little different because Charm versus Fairy Wind. But the fighters are the same with Machamp and Pangoro. Drapion's the same as a save swap. The Ghost, I said a Ghost is going to rise in Ultra League. In Great League, I just didn't know which one. And here we go in the Great League. Jesus. Here we go again in the Ultra League. Giratina obviously is still the top Ghost, but Dust Noir 14-15, Drifblim 26, Skelger's still up there, and then Runariga's 47, Golurk 52, Gengar 66, Trevenant 68. And again, Ghosts are on the rise. And why are they on the rise? I think one of the main reasons they're on the rise is because Body Slam got nerfed, so you're not going to see as many normal typings. And with less normal typings means you don't need to worry about your fast moves and charge moves being double resisted. That's number one. Obviously, Astonish got a huge buff. It went from 9 damage to 12 damage, as we see over here. 9 to 12. That is an insane buff. That's a 33% rise in your damage output. So the damage per energy with same type attack bonus on these is quite high. Again, there are, like, here's all the Ghost lists. So Ghost does super effective against Ghost. It also does super effective against Psychic, right? And Cresselia, there's not a lot of Psychic, but Cresselia being the main one is still everywhere. What else Ghost does well against? Oh, and just the fighters, because Ghost resists fighting. And you know there's going to be a lot of Pangoros and Machamps around, right? So a Ghost is going to rise. Whenever I use Ghost, I use Giratina or Trevenant in the Ultra League. Again, I'm going to just put this as a Ghost heading. One of these will rise. Dust Noir is high. Why is it high? Well, I can see the XL beside it, and Drifblim's the same. So I'm guessing, well, so is Runarigus and Trevenant. I'm guessing they're the lower attack, higher defense or stamina. Yeah, so you have a 223, really high defense here. Drifblim is really high on the stamina, right? So you have the 272, really high stamina, right? So they fit the model of like a lower to mid attack with a high defense or stamina, so that automatically puts them in the great column for the stat product. You look at the typing as a Ghost, only 2 weaknesses, Ghost and Dark. If it's another Ghost, you are also hitting super effectively against them, so you really only have one weakness you really need to worry about, and that is Dark Pokemon. Like I said, less issues against less normal typings potentially. With the Body Slam nerfed, you have Giratina and Cresselia and stuff like that. That'll still be good. A lot of fighters. So a Ghost will rise. Drifblim is an interesting one because Dusknoir is just Ghost. Drifblim's half flying. So you pick up a lot of weaknesses with that secondary flying, which is why it's probably ranked a little lower. Not only are you weak to the dark, but you also pick up electric, ice, and rock. So that is 3 other typings that you are weak to. You pick up a 3rd resistance on fighting, so those fighting moves are going to do absolutely nothing. And then you also start picking up other resistances, right? So you now double resist ground. So if you get those mud sap users like Gastrodon and stuff like that, you double resist ground as a flyer. You double resist bug as a flyer, helping you out there. And now you pick up a grass weakness. So it does offset with some resistances, but you know, pick your poison of what the strengths or weaknesses is. Speaking about Gastrodon, I saw it at 24 again. In theory, I get it. And and I'm gonna put my bias on the table right now. I've used Gastrodon and Doug Trio as Mud Slap users pre-buff. And using them was very, very frustrating because it was a decently hard-hitting move, but it was just so slow. It took you forever to get to the charge moves. It got double buffed, right? It already hit hard. It got a power buff from 11 till 12, and it's going to get more energy. So you're going to get to the charge move faster. So every time I'm trying to take away my bias here, because every time I've used Gastrodon or just a Mud Slap user, I've hated it. But I've got to put that away for now. It has, again, a lot of things going positive for it. It has the stat product of your high stamina there, overall high stat product. It has the typing. You're only weak to grass. There's like very, 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 very little grass in the Ultra League. So off the bat, you're looking great. And now you have a fast move that is hard hitting, is charging a little bit faster. Again, Body Slam got nerfed. That's more of a bait movement. You still have that Earth Power doing almost 2 damage per energy up there at 100 damage. So with less flyers, right? Like let's just think about your weaknesses here for a second. Grass, there's Virizion, and I think Trevenant will make a rise, but not a ton of grass in the Ultra League. Flying, like I said, you just got nerfed into the ground with Pidgeot. I guess you can argue that Drifblim will take its place. Moltres, I'm still a little... I got to see Sucker Punch in action to make a sort of decision on Moltres. But Pidgeot's gone. Talonflame is still there, so that'll be a bit of an issue, but you are half water. So you'll resist the Incinerates at least, but you'll probably just get beaten out by the flies. So, but again, flyers and grass are your two main things that you need to worry about from Gastrodon, and there's not a lot of them. So if you're hitting neutral against a lot of other stuff, it makes sense why it is ranked so high. I'm just trying to look at this list to see if there's anything on this list. Skuntank is just a poor man's Drapion, honestly. Could be a good safe swap, could be a good double poison lineup. Drapion is a safe swap, try and draw out a ground and then run in the back with Skunk. That is probably an option to use. Galarian Moltres, again, I need to see this Sucker Punch in action. I can't make a judgment on Sucker Punch right now. My first thoughts were no. I think Galarian Moltres is overrated, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I've used it. It's one of the only. I think it's the only bird that I have. I have it in the Great League. And maybe it's because of its stat product in the Great League is not good, and maybe for stat product wise it'll be way better in the Ultra League. But for the Great League, it's so glassy, and even with the Wing Attack, which was faster energy generation than this before, it was like 4 before. It takes forever to get to these moves because your lowest one is 45, but you don't really want to use that because it's not a good move, right? It's a terrible move, maybe boost your attack. So you really relied on the Brave Bird and the Payback, and those are 55 and 60 energy. So it takes a lot to get to that, and you're too glassy to even get there. So yes, Sucker Punch is now a hard-hitting move, but it's still 3.5 energy per turn. So I don't think in action, like again, it takes 8 Sucker Punches to get to a Brave Bird and 9 to get to a Payback. And I get that these are nukes, but this is the Ultra League, so I'm guessing a lot of stuff probably survives one of these. So I don't know about this in action, quite honestly. I think the Moltres Galarian in both are overrated in my opinion, but we'll see. Someone mentioned, yes, we get to see a Dan Beyond the Hype. Yes, I'm going to Beyond the Hype the crap out of all these. If you are new to this channel, I created a series called Beyond the Hype because we get these videos like this being like, holy crap, new season, new meta, and then every content creator is the first to try and put this out. Oh, Pangoro, OP in this, whatever. Like everything's OP, everything's meta, I went 5-0 with this new Pokemon. Not every new Pokemon is amazing. Some of these rankings are probably overstating how strong these Pokemon are. Like maybe Dusknoir at 14-15 isn't going to be as strong as it is. I don't know. I need to, like some of these Pokemon with these moves that got significantly buffed, I need to test out. So what I did is I created this series called Beyond the Hype, where I like, okay, let's yes, we're all excited for a new Pokemon, and all these content creators are going to say you need to go use it ASAP, but like, let's park that. Let's look at the reasons why it's good. Let's look at the reasons why it's bad. Let's look at it in action. So yes, we are going to do a ton of Beyond the Hype because there are so many Pokemon in the Great League and Ultra League that I can do this with. So we will definitely take that moving forward in the new season. Just going down the rankings here. Blastoise at 50. That's hilarious. Again, Golurk is the ghost. Nidoqueen. A couple subscribers, or one that's commenting multiple times, I haven't looked, I forgot the name, has said, mark my words, and Nidoqueen will be back. Nidoqueen will be back. It's not like Nidoqueen got buffed. It has the same moves that did not get buffed: Poison Jab, Poison Fang, Earth Power. But I think they were saying that it's going to be back on the menu because you're going to have potentially less Mud Boys, potentially, with like less Glygars, which is an issue. But you also have Earth Power for like other poisons and steals and stuff like that may be on the rise. So Nidoqueen, I'll have to test out. Look at my Ninetales at 56, 57. Again, I'm excited to test out. I probably would use Skeldurge in the Ultra League before I use Ninetales. Like, I love Ninetales, but as a straight fire in the Ultra League, I probably would have Skeldurge with that coverage of there. But then you're having just a lot of like other Pokemon that you normally see in the Ultra League, right? You have Tentacruel at 62, Trevenant at 68, Umbreon at 69. Poliwrath has dropped down, but it's still top 75 here and usable. So Dragonite, Shadow Dragonite's probably higher. So will this meta change? Yes. Is it going to change significantly? I don't think so. I think in a lot of teams, like Feraligatr is still going to be dominant. You can replace Annihilate with Pangoro or Machamp. Giratina and Cresselia are still going to be everywhere. You still have Cobalion and Virizion that are going to be around. I think Registeel got nerfed, but it's still going to be everywhere. So I think a Great League is going to change substantially. I think you will see some changes in the Ultra League, but they won't be as many because you're still going to have a lot of those. What do I expect? Like I said, I expect an uptick in the Fairies, Clefable, Florges. I expect an uptick in these like double poison teams, Drapion, Skunk, maybe Nidoqueen. But if you're going to use a double poison team, it's usually a Drapion, Safe Swap, and Skunk Tank in the back as your second poison. I'll try and find one of them because that's not a new team. So having that just more strength there, it's not surprising that should rise up. But yeah, Steelix if you want to do that. So yeah, maybe you'll see a bit more Gastrodons and Driftblims and Ghosts and Dusknoir, like, and a couple more Fairies, and then Lickilicky is a new Safe Swap sort of thing. But outside of that, I think it's going to be more contained for the old Ultra League than we'll see for the Great League. But those are my thoughts. Sorry that some of it's repetitive, but again, this is the problem with when you buff certain moves, right? I sound like a broken record, but I cannot emphasize this enough. There's 3 things that make a Pokemon good in GBL: stat product, typing, and moveset. And 2 of those things are not changing. The stat product is not changing, and the typing is not changing. So if you have a good stat product and you have a good typing, and the only thing you're missing is a moveset, and they give you the moveset, you become meta in all the leagues. That's just the way it works in this current scenario, and that is what's happening here. We are seeing the fighters with a broken fast move jump to the top with Pangoro Machamp. In fact, someone in my comments said, I bet you that they are going to make you use all your fast elite TMs to get Karate Chop on these Pokemon. I guess the Karate Chop doesn't look like it's a legacy on Pangoro, but it is on Machamp. There's like, you're going to use all your legacy elite TMs and they're going to nerf Karate Chop back into the ground in a couple seasons. Like, some people are just like, it's that broken of a move right now that they're going to nerf it. So we'll see. Again, I'm not one for waiting to see what nerfs or buffs come around. I'll play in the current meta, what is going on. So if I need to use TMs, I'll use TMs. That's it. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the Ultra League. If there's any Pokemon that you think are going to rise to the top that I may be missed. But again, my initial thoughts is mostly the same meta with a few different Pokemon buffs coming into what is generally a set meta. But that is it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.